Sant Ishar Singh Ji Memorial Public School, Karmsar, Rana Sahib. Class 12th Commerce, subject Accountancy. Dear students, in this video, I will be explaining you about the accounting treatment of reserves, accumulated profits and losses during the change in profit sharing ratio among the existing partners. This is chapter number 4 of your T.S. Garewal accountancy book. Students, if at the time of change in profit sharing ratio, any reserves or accumulated profits and losses exist in the books of the firm, they are transferred to the partners' capital accounts if the capitals are fluctuating, or partners' current accounts if the capitals are fixed in their old profit sharing ratio. This is because the reserves, accumulated, that is undistributed profits and losses as on the date of change in profit sharing ratio, were earned before the reconstitution of the firm. We can see all these items in the balance sheet which is given in the question to you. A few of them are given in the liability side of the balance sheet and the others are given in the asset side of the balance sheet. So let us start up with the items of accumulated reserves and profits. These items can be the general reserve, profit and loss account, credit balance, workmen's compensation reserve, investments fluctuation reserve, or contingency reserves. Now, before knowing the treatment of reserves and accumulated profits, we should know where these reserves and accumulated profits exist. In the given question, we find the items of reserves and accumulated profits in the liability side of the given balance sheet. Now let us discuss the treatment of these reserves and accumulated profits. A journal entry is passed separately for all these items, or we can also pass a compound entry altogether for all these items of reserves and accumulated profits which are there in the liability side of the given balance sheet. Here it is given on this picture that we can pass the journal entry as general reserve account debited, profit and loss accounts credit balance account debited, workmen's compensation reserve account debited, investments fluctuation reserve account debited to all partners capital or current account. We all know that if it is the fluctuating capital system to be followed in the question, then all partners capital account will be there, and if it is the fixed capital system, then to all partners current account we will write in this entry. Now in the same manner, let's have a look at the accumulated losses items. These can be profit and loss accounts debit balance, deferred revenue expenditure, for example advertisement suspense account. Now let us discuss where we can find these accumulated losses or where these accumulated losses exist. So students, these all the items of accumulated losses exists in the asset side of the given balance sheet. Now let me discuss the treatment of these accumulated losses. A journal entry is to be passed for treating these accumulated losses, and the journal entry to be passed is all partners capital or current account debited to profit and loss account if it is the debit balance or if it is given in the asset side of the balance sheet, and to deferred revenue expenditure such as advertisement suspense account. So this was the common treatment of all the reserves and the accumulated profits and losses. Now there are two items which we have seen in these accumulated profits or the reserves. These are workmen compensation reserve and investment fluctuation reserve, for which there are different situations, and for which for each different situation different entries are to be passed. So let us in detail discuss about the workmen's compensation reserve now. Basically, there are two different situations for the treatment of workmen's compensation reserve which can exist in the given question. These two different situations can be: number one, when the claim against workmen's compensation reserve does not exist, or when there is nothing given about the claim against workmen's compensation reserve. Another situation is when claim for workmen's compensation reserve exists and this situation is again subdivided into three different parts comprising of when workmen's compensation claim is equal to the amount of workmen's compensation reserve. Second, when workmen's compensation claim is less than the amount of workmen's compensation reserve. And the third one is when the compensation claim or when workmen compensation claim is more than the amount of workmen compensation reserve. We can very well understand the different situations and the entries to be passed under different situations through this flowchart. Let's have a look at that now. So workmen's compensation reserve has two situations to be explained. One is when workmen compensation claim does not exist, and another is when workmen compensation claim exists. So let us discuss the first part, when workmen compensation claim does not exist. It can be understood as when the question is silent about any claim, or when it is clearly written in the additional information that there is no workmen compensation claim or there is no accident of workmen or any employee in the organization, and only the reserve, that is workmen compensation reserve, is given in the balance sheet in the liability side. At that time, one single entry will be passed, and that will be workmen compensation reserve account debited to all the partners' capital or current account, and the amount which is given in the liability side of the balance sheet as workmen's compensation reserve will be divided among all the partners in their old profit sharing ratio. Now let us discuss about when the workmen compensation claim exists. No, so how come we know about that the workmen's compensation claim exists in the question? आपको क्वेश्चन में क्या गिवन होगा? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी विल बी हैविंग अ लुक एट द बैलेंस शीट इन गिवन इन द क्वेश्चन. In the liability side, workmen compensation reserve will be given to you. Then we will be having a look at the additional information or the adjustments given below the balance sheet in the question. There will be any claim given to you that an employee met an accident and he claimed about rupees itne, or there was a claim against workmen's compensation reserve for rupees itne. From there we will be picking that amount. Now we will be comparing that amount of adjustment of claim with the amount of reserve here. So the three situations in this case will arise. The first one will be if the workmen's compensation claim is equal to workmen's compensation reserve. For example, the reserve given in the balance sheet at liability side is rupees 10,000 and the claim is also of 10,000 which is given in the additional information or the adjustments in the question. So in this case, the situation arises that the workmen compensation claim is equal to the workmen's compensation reserve. So a single entry will be passed, that is workmen compensation reserve account debited to all partners' capital account or current account in their old ratio. Now the second situation which can be if the workmen's compensation claim is less than workmen's compensation reserve. For instance, the reserve, workmen's compensation reserve given in the liability side of the balance sheet is rupees 10,000 and the claim given in the adjustment or the additional information is rupees 6,000. So this is the situation when the claim is less than the reserve. So one single entry will be passed, that will be workmen's compensation reserve account debited to workmen's compensation claim account to all partners' capital or current account in their old ratio. Here in workmen's compensation reserve account जिसे हमने डेबिट किया है, the amount of reserve given in the liability side will be written. Then to workmen's compensation claim account जहाँ हमने लिखा है, there we will be writing the amount of claim which will be given in the additional information or the adjustment, and the difference between the two will be given to the partners or credited to the partners in their old ratio. Now the last situation which can be in the question is when the workmen's compensation claim is more than workmen compensation reserve. For instance, the reserve given in the liability side is rupees 10,000 and the claim given in the adjustment or the additional information below the balance sheet in the question is rupees 15,000. In that case, we will be seeking the help of the revaluation account, and the another name for revaluation account is profit and loss adjustment account. So in that case, two entries will be passed. One will be Workmen's compensation reserve account debited with the amount lying in the reserve. Revaluation account debited with the amount which is falling short to compensate to the employee for the claim. To workmen's compensation claim account with the amount of claim which is to be given to the employee. This way the entry will be workmen's compensation reserve account debited, revaluation account debited to workmen compensation claim account. One more entry will be passed in this case because we have taken the help from the revaluation account. Now all the partners have to compensate that amount which was being taken from the revaluation account in their old profit sharing ratio to the revaluation account. So second entry will be all partners capital or current account debited to revaluation account, and here the partners will bring the amount of loss which was falling short in the reserve of workmen's compensation, and they will be bringing it in their old ratio. In this way, the two journal entries will be passed in this last case. Now let us take an example of the same. It is the illustration number 10 of your book given at page number 4.16 in T.S. Garewal's double entry bookkeeping system for partnership. XYZ are partners sharing profits and losses in the ratio of 5:3:2. They decide to share future profits and losses in the ratio of 2:3:5 with effect from 1st April 2021. Now following is the extract of their balance sheet as on 31st March 2021. Here we can very well see that in the liability side given in the given balance sheet, general reserve, profit and loss account and workmen's compensation reserve is given to you. These are all the reserves and accumulated profits. Whereas in the asset side, advertisement suspense, which is an example of deferred revenue expenditure, is given to you. It is an accumulated loss. So for the accumulated profits and reserves, we will be passing a single journal entry, that is a compound journal entry, and that will be general reserve account debited with 75,000 rupees, workmen's compensation reserve account debited with 12,500 rupees, profit and loss account debited with 37,500 rupees, to X capital account, to Y's capital account, to Z's capital account, and all these three amounts 75,000 plus 12,500 plus 37,500 will be distributed or divided among these three partners in their old profit sharing ratio, that is 5:3:2. Now let us come to the asset side of the given balance sheet, and here advertisement suspense account is given to you. So this is accumulated loss, and we will be passing a journal entry for it as all partners, that is XYZ capital account debited to advertisement suspense account in their old ratio. Now let us have a look at one more example, which is illustration number 6 of page number 4.11 in your book, and this is exclusively for the treatment of workmen's compensation reserve. Here it is given in the question, Ram, Shyam and Mohan sharing profits and losses in the ratio 4:3:2. They decided to share future profits and losses in the ratio of 2:3:4. So it is a case of change in profit sharing ratio of existing partners, and they decided to do so with effect from 1st April 2021. An extract of their balance sheet as at 31st March 21 is given to you, in which workmen's compensation reserve is given as 90,000 in the liability side. So we have to show the accounting treatment for this workmen's compensation reserve in different alternative cases. So case 1 here is when no information as to claim is given. So this is the first situation when there was no claim or no information is given about the claim. So we will be passing a single journal entry as workmen's compensation reserve account debited with 90,000 rupees to Ram's capital account, to Shyam's capital account, to Mohan's capital account, and this 90,000 will be divided in all profit sharing ratio to all these three partners. Then the next case here given in the question is when there is no claim. Again, this is the same thing as case number 1. If there is no information given about the claim, or if there is no claim also, then also the same entry will be passed in such a situation. Now let's have a look at case number 3 when a claim on account of workman's compensation is 45,000. यानी आपको claim given है 45,000 का. So this is the situation when reserve is more and claim is less. That is, claim is less than the workman's compensation reserve. So the amount of claim will be given to the claimants and the remaining amount will be distributed among all partners in their all profit sharing ratio. So the entry here will be workman's compensation reserve account debited with 90,000, to workman's compensation claim account with 45,000, to Ram's capital account, to Shyam's capital account and to Mohan's capital account. That is, remaining 45,000 will be distributed among these three partners in their old profit sharing ratio. You can check the answer from page number 4.12 of your book. Then the fourth case given here in the question is when the workman's compensation claim on account of workman's compensation is 99,000. That is, claim is more than the amount of reserve. So here in this case, reserve is 90,000, whereas claim is 99,000. That is, 9,000 is short in the reserve to compensate the claimants. So we will be taking the help of revaluation account for these 9,000, and afterwards the partners, all the partners will be bringing this 9,000 and will be transferring it to the revaluation account in their old ratio. So in this case, two journal entries will be passed. One is workman's compensation reserve account debited with 90,000, revaluation account debited with 9,000, to workman's compensation claim account, that is 99,000. Another entry will be Ram's capital account debited, Shyam's capital account debited, Mohan's capital account debited to revaluation account, and this revaluation account will be credited with 9,000, and this amount will be brought in by the partners in their old profit sharing ratio. Now the last case here in the question given to you, that is case number 5, is when a claim on account of workman compensation is 90,000. That is, we can very well compare the reserve with the claim, and we can see that the reserve amount is equal to the amount of compensation to be paid to the claimants. So it is the situation when the compensation, workman compensation claim is equal to the workman's compensation reserve, and a single journal entry will be passed for it, and that will be workman's compensation reserve account debited with 90,000 rupees to workman compensation claim account with 90,000 rupees, and the narration will be workman compensation claim amount accounted for. More practice, you can do the sums given in the back exercise of your book. This concept of accumulated profits, losses and reserves are all clear to you, and with this I am summing up my video. Thank you everybody.